Welcome to the Phoenix Prosperity Podcast, where wealth meets legacy. Join your host, Tim Fergestad, as we explore the journeys of Phoenix's finest to success and beyond.
Hello, this is Tim Fergestad. Thank you for joining us. I'm very pleased to have Alan Saquella with me here today. Alan is a nationally recognized expert in security and investigations with over 30 years of experience in both corporate and public sectors. He's a certified polygraph examiner and former director of security operations at Cox Communications. Cox is based here, aren't they, Alan?
Yeah, their biggest operation is the Phoenix, or what they call the Southwest region.
Okay.
The corporate headquarters is in Atlanta, Georgia, however.
Oh, really? But it's family owned still, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
It's family and privately held.
Okay, excellent. Alan, you now serve as a professor at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and you're a director of investigations and research at Forensics. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. You've co-authored Security Investigations, a Professional's Guide, and serves on the Identity Theft Advisory Board. All sorts of great stuff. I'm excited to talk to you. Welcome to the show.
Well, Tim, thank you for having me on. It's great to be here. I look forward to having a conversation with you today.
All right. Well, let's start with how you got into this industry, please.
Well, Tim, I'm an old guy, so it goes way back. It's a funny story. I was in high school back east, and every Friday night when there was a home football game, I would go to this McDonald's with my girlfriend. I sat in there, and there was a lot of fights that occurred after the football games that were home, and so they had an off-duty cop in there, and he would sit there in uniform obviously to deter any fights. And he got to see us in there every once in a while, and he was kind of curious. And he was bored because he didn't have any activity. He asked us, "Well, wait, where do you go to school? What are you going to do for a living?" I thought at that time I was going to go military, and I told him the high school I was going to, and he says, "Hey, you have a drug problem in that high school." And I said, "Yeah, I know." And so, long story short, I did some volunteer work with him, and I actually did some uncover operations to set up drug buys and with the drug dealers at the high school. And
Oh, wow.
through a process, obviously they would protect my identity without going into a lot of detail on how narcs work. But in any event, that started my interest, and I came out west to Arizona. I went to Northern Arizona University and completed both my undergraduate and graduate degrees in what at that time they called police science. As a graduate student, I had the great opportunity to teach a class. I didn't know anything about anything. I was going off of the professor's notes and curriculum, but I knew one day I wanted to teach. And so as I progressed through my career, and of course I started in law enforcement, I'm still a polygraph examiner. I was giving polygraphs. I ran about 1,800 polygraphs in my career.
Oh, wow.
And I migrated to the corporate sector, very similar to your background and others. I needed to make some money. I couldn't survive.
Okay.
And so, knowing I wanted to have a family, of course, went ahead and moved over as an investigator with a major corporation and worked my way up into the ranks and ultimately changed companies. Went to Cox as a director of security operations and investigations. I was living in Atlanta. Of course, had an opportunity to come out to Phoenix and resided here for quite a few years until I decided to retire. I retired as a director, like I said, and ultimately moved into academia. When I was working throughout my career, wherever I was based in the United States, I took the opportunity to teach adjunct. And the reason I did that is because I was able to identify students that would be good employees. So I wound up recruiting, use that as a
Excellent.
recruiting effort. So I liked it and knew one day I'd get into it. So when I retired from Cox, I reached out to my friend and colleague who's the chair of the Global Security and Intelligence program at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University in Prescott, and asked him if he had any consulting gigs he could pass my way, because I do a little of that on the side. And he said, "No, I don't." He called me back 2 weeks later and said, "Oh, by the way, we could use someone to teach interview techniques and tactics because our professor that teaches it is moving back east, and you're a polygraph examiner, and we need someone with your background."
Okay.
So I started adjunct in the fall of 21. Midway through the semester, they asked me to come on full time. So I went through the process. So I teach white collar crime, security investigations, interview techniques and tactics, which is really a euphemism for interrogation, and then also crisis resiliency and recovery. So I've been there four full years, and well, for the summer. So that's kind of my background. I do consulting still when I'm off. I train polygraph examiners. I go around the country and train fraud examiners. I spent the early part of this summer at a couple of different conferences. Like I said, training, and of course, the whole benefit of this, though, Tim, is to continue to stay relevant. I want to say relevant as come back to the classroom in the fall. I want to be able to bring good information,
Sure.
current information back to the students. So they're not just getting the same thing. I update my curriculum every semester, and I continue to do the presentations out with professionals, and I still pick up a few investigations from here.
Okay. Yeah, that landscape's changing quickly, I imagine. They're very lucky to have somebody who's on top of that industry giving their lectures.
Yeah, they want non-traditional, professors, and most of the professors at Embry-Riddle, whether you're in aeronautics, engineering, they've worked in the field, and even in global security and intelligence, which is where I teach, uh, everyone has career experience, and they've worked 35 years, 30 years. They have all kinds. We have a CIA retired guy, FBI agent. Of course, my background, security investigations. So we all have worked it, and now we're teaching it. So it just seems to resonate better.
Right.
We're a STEM university, science, technology, engineering, math, and these kids want something they can apply when they graduate. And so I'm proud to say that our students are very employable and that when they come out, they all have job offers. In some cases, especially if they're on the cyber side, they have multiple offers, uh,
Right.
which is pretty exciting.
Okay. Before we get into more of that, I feel obliged to ask for our listeners, what are some of the common questions that you get or and or misconceptions about polygraph tests, and how have they changed over time?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's interesting. I got interviewed by NPR just last month after the FBI said they were going to start polygraph testing for leakers, those who were leaking information.
Huh.
The technology has changed quite a bit. And so when I was doing exams, it was an old analog system you might remember from the movies. There's paper rolling out with pens.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, right. I was trying out one of those. So really, as far as the technology, yes, it's gone digital. We still record the same things: heart rate, blood pressure, galvanic skin response, respiration. But we added a few more nuances to it because there was a very successful spy that worked for the Defense Intelligence Agency back in the 90s through about September 11th, where she was stealing information, government secrets, and giving it to the Cubans. Uh, she was trained by the Cubans to, I could mention her name. Her name is Ana Montez. She served 20 years in federal prison after being caught, but she was trained to defeat the polygraph by flexing her butt muscles during the appropriate time.
Right.
Or she went through several training sessions over a course of a couple of years, and she was successfully able to do that. And of course, since then, we have during the debrief and interrogation, she admitted that that's what she did. We have now a seat cushion, so we the seat cushion and also a
Huh.
footpad because some folks will actually make fists with their toes and or clench their butt muscles. Those are called countermeasures, and so
Okay.
we can detect those now. And pretty much, it's much better, especially you don't have the issues with ink running dry, the pen, the pen issues with the old system.
Huh.
So it's a much better system
Okay.
today, and of course we're identifying countermeasures much easier than previously when I was trained.
Okay. I remember, this is decades ago, where one of the things I'd heard was somebody would put like a tack in their shoe and they would just gently push on it and then they'd let off to remove the stress when they were creating their own stress by lying, right? It's something to that
Well,
effect.
no, you're absolutely right. So one of the countermeasures was the tack in the shoe, biting your lip, flexing a muscle. These are all called countermeasures, but the difference is you have to not only know when to do it, how much to apply it, the right questions for how
Right.
long. And so it's very difficult. And the tack in the shoe will cause an immediate blood pressure change, which does not look normal. And you can see that
Ah,
readily on the tracings.
okay.
Whereas what Anna Montez was doing, it was again, it took her 2 years of training
Right. Right.
to be able to get through, and that was through an old analog system. Today, it'd be almost impossible.
Right.
Polygraph is the best thing we have today. It's not the end all, but if it didn't work, we wouldn't have it still in use in law enforcement and intelligence agencies. Again, it is the best thing we have, and of
Okay.
course, it helps us identify some of those issues.
Right. Um, I was talking to somebody on the show about using AI for therapy, right? Apparently, it's very effective because people, um, first of all, they have, the AI has a ton of protocols and resources and knows how to use them and in which order and customize it for the person as they move really quickly. But they don't miss facial cues and other things. They're apparently super good at that. And of course, you add on the fact that people are often more comfortable talking about private things to a computer than they are another person, right? So there's also a number of reasons why it's particularly effective. I was just wondering for the polygraph if that sort of visual study in AI is, I'm sure it's being used to analyze at some capacity, right? The
Yeah.
facial cues.
Yeah, so a lot of polygraph examiners now have actually a camera in front of
Hmm.
the person. But it's interesting you mentioned that because there is actually another company that I actually work with called Forensics, who uses AI. They actually worked with Georgia Tech software engineers as well as some psychologists, and they developed this software which will help identify uh, people with bad behavior. So for pre-employment screening, for example, we
Ah,
know that 87% of, and of course the numbers change, but it's usually around 90%. 90% of the offenders in corporations, businesses, or government do not have a criminal history. Uh, so we know that because background checks are run, they don't have a history. So
right,
you go through your formal background check and you hire them. What we can't determine from those background checks or investigations is their behaviors. So if a person has never been caught, but they have a propensity to do something, you're going to be at risk. So these folks, the founders of Forensics, decide we need something a little bit better to kind of help tell us who might be a good candidate for someone else on a pre-employment section in
right,
selection process. So a candidate will go online and be monitored, to your point, as they're answering the questions. We know that people who are willing or attempting to deceive take longer to respond. They may hover with their mouse. Of course, a bunch of things are different with someone who is planning on being honest, and also what they choose for the answer. And so, what it does, this cool technology, it buckets you in a red, yellow, or green bucket.
huh,
If you get bucketed red, that means you made an admission on the test or on the survey.
wow, okay,
Yellow means you have information and some other best behavioral issues, and green means you did fine. So that's great for pre-employment screening. The Texas Bureau of Corrections is using it. They're based in Atlanta, of course, another Atlanta-based company. In any event, they are using it also for investigations. It was very effective in an investigation I was running where I had 80 potential suspects. You can't interview 80 insiders. This was in a corporation, 80 insiders. They did not have any video. They just knew there was 80 people in the area where this issue was occurring over the course of a year. Basically, it was inventory disappearing out of a distribution center. They asked me to do an investigation. I said, the resources and the time and the cost to go down there, and this was happened to be in Tampa, Florida, where I'd have to talk to 80 people, and I'm human. I get tired. I need breaks. I'm going to make mistakes. I got a better idea. Let's run them through Forensics, their investigative platform. And we
right.
did. And of course, it narrowed the suspect pool down dramatically, where I only had to interview a handful of people, solve the case, save the company a ton of money. So the future, and this is, of course, just one example of AI. You had mentioned AI in polygraph, but I have plenty of others where we're seeing it improve security intelligence, of course, even law enforcement.
Excellent. Excellent. When I think of security in AI, I think of accounts being hacked by AI in the future or even now, but how defenses are going to have to grow along with that, and quickly. So, do you dabble in that industry much, or is it more investigative at this point?
It's investigative, but it's also deterrent. So let me give you a couple of examples. So I
Yeah.
mentioned forensics from an employee standpoint or an investigative standpoint.
Right.
You also want to obviously deter. I had an example where when I was at my former company, so it was at the advent of adding AI to drones. So we had a 40-acre lot. Now, you probably don't know this, but Cox Communications is owned by Cox Enterprises, and Cox Enterprises owns other businesses, such as Mannheim Auto Auctions and also Cox Media Group. In any event, there was a lot here in Phoenix, which was several acres, and they were having vehicles broken into. And when you're 40 acres down a lot with a bunch of vehicles, you don't have good camera coverage. So we actually went to our provider and said, "Do you have something that could help us?" Yeah, let's test this drone. So we tested this drone where we could dispatch it, and actually, anytime there was a front fence breach
Right.
on the perimeter, we dispatched it, and it would just control it to the area and hover over the suspect and have a conversation with them as we're actually recording. So police have been notified. We call it talk down capability. We're talking to them and saying law enforcement's notified, you better leave, and so those types of things have been very helpful for that standpoint. On a camera standpoint, we've also added AI to help predict some of the issues. We know that humans generally walk about 3.5 miles an hour. If you're monitoring 3,000 cameras across the country, let's say at Cox again, and you have a control center where you have all these screens. Think about a big monitor center where your security technicians are sitting in there trying to determine what's going on where. They
Right.
can't. There's nothing they can do. You need smart cameras with AI to tell you when there's an issue. So if there's, let's say, a person in an area that shouldn't be, it will pop up that camera on the main lookup monitor and say, "Look here." We'll actually alert them. We had one situation, and I can give you criminal history, a criminal example after example, but there was one where we were having safety issues because we had these people that were going into this confined space area in a parking lot behind these block walls, and they were engaging in heroin use. So a dealer would meet someone, they would inject their heroin, and then we would see the disposed syringe in a corner, which was obviously a biohazard. Of course, you tell the security folks, keep an eye on this place, but you don't know when someone's going to go there.
Right.
So we put a camera up with this system, an AI, and the moment a human showed up, if a cat went through, it wouldn't alert us. A dog walks through, it won't alert us. A human gets in that area. Within 2 days, we were able to identify it. We notified PD. Again, this is being monitored from Atlanta. This location was Phoenix. Of course, they were met in the parking lot. We were able to put a stop to it. So the cameras are great. Have another example where we have students working with satellite imaging. It's called ArcGIS. They're using it to obviously zoom down on areas that are vulnerable or had a history. Had one student working this past summer with an AI company. Of course, he took one of our classes, which is ArcGIS, which is mapping and using, like I said, satellite imaging for things. But in addition to that, he was using intelligence software. And what you do is you take all your events, you put it into the software, and it will actually kind of show you connect the connections. To illustrate it for the layman, think about the law enforcement shows you've seen with the yarn and the thumbtacks on a bulletin board, where you're connecting a suspect with an event. So that's what the software does. You put in your data, it's going to then show you the connections, but more importantly, it's going to then predict where the next ones are going to occur.
Ah,
And
okay.
so we had a situation where, again, at my former company, where we were having all these break-ins. We had 5,000 locations. We had 361 break-ins with no idea where they were going to go next until I took an intern on who used ArcGIS and the Analyst Notebook software and came back and said, out of these 5,000 locations in this area, you need to watch these 12. 2 weeks we caught the culprits. So again, this
Nice.
goes back to the software, the technology, the machine learning, predictive analyses, which will help us and lead us to what's going on. These are cool things where we're helping businesses, law enforcement, and also intelligence agencies. A lot of good stuff out there for the future.
Right. That's an incredibly powerful internship too. Um, I mentioned this maybe before the show started. My son is starting at Embry-Riddle in Prescott this fall with some of his buddies. One of them is doing security there. Is that one of the first programs in the country, actually? So I heard something to that effect.
Yeah, we are one of the first colleges that actually brings in business security and intelligence into one. We're the only college. We also have, like, in the college, we have cybersecurity, global security, and intelligence. Another area I haven't mentioned is forensic accounting and fraud examining, because we know it's very important. Because think about any criminal organization, one thing they all need: money.
Right.
If you can follow the money, you're gonna or disrupt the cash flow, you're gonna slow down the organization. So
Right.
these folks are required to take some of the classes in security and intelligence. And of course, my background is mostly corporate white collar investigations. So I get to see some of these kids come through, and that's amazing the jobs that they're going into.
Right.
Yes, we're one of the few, and of course, we have, like I said, great placement rate with these students. So they get some pretty cool internships. But you
Right.
mentioned the one internship. The one I did mention was the one where we had a student using the same technology, where they were able to, with their in through the summer, they broke up a sex trafficking ring out of Texas,
Oh,
resulting
wow.
resulting in 7 individuals being arrested.
All right. Excellent.
This is a junior in college getting this type of experience.
Right.
He was then interviewed by Security Day magazine. He did a podcast. This guy's got employers lined up for him. He can't even graduate, and they want to take him now. No, he needs to finish his degree. Then, but yeah, the internship our students get are amazing.
That's what I've heard. And to your point, I think I saw a statistic or something like over 95% of the students at Embry-Riddle get placed in their field of study within 3 months or something to that effect.
Yeah, that's the total university. So
Okay.
if you look at aeronautics, of course, it's 100%. We have a pilot shortage. Our engineering, it's 100%. Global security and intelligence, it's probably well over that. Our cyber students, on average, get 2 or 3 offers. I had one student, 22 years old. She started 102,000 a year uh, with a cyber degree. It's ridiculous, the need. I mean, there's a shortage, a huge shortage of pilots and also cyber trained individuals. Uh, if you're going to do
Right.
anything, go fly a plane or go work in the cyber and security world. We need you.
Right. And part of the secret to that success is those internships you mentioned, right? They get incredible training and on campus and off campus in the summer, right?
Absolutely. And so, without plugging myself, I'm also the faculty advisor for internships. So,
Oh,
I helped find the kids internships. I have,
awesome.
I have 12 interns doing interns this summer. They can take them during the school year, what have you. I'm also the faculty advisor for the Global Security and Intelligence student organization. So, we bring in guest speakers. And of course, at the same time, they're trying to recruit our students. So yeah, absolutely. And that's the other reason I like to keep my fingers in the industry, why I continue to do things outside the university. It's all about the students. And you talk about the Phoenix Prosperity podcast. It's about the legacy. And so for me, I'm giving back every which way I can.
Right.
There's no greater satisfaction than I get to see these kids graduate, find great jobs, and move on. I even reflect back to my college days, and I'm sure you have some of those too, that were great mentors. If it wasn't for those professors, I wouldn't have been be in the career path that I'm in today.
For sure.
And I still think about them. They're all long gone, but I know our students, and I'm sure people that you've touched in your career, they're gonna look back and say, "Wow, if it wasn't for Tim, I wouldn't be where I am today."
Right.
And although, I've had a very extensive, fun career, it's now about giving back and preparing the next generation. That's what turns me on. It's exciting. I tell my students, I say, your success is my reward. If I can help you be successful, but I'm not the only one. We're all that way at Embry-Riddle. That's what it's all about.
Right. That's yeah, it's a rock star place because of the rock star people. So thank you. And I'm looking forward to engaging more with the school. Um, back to your field of study. I imagine there's a lot of competition in that space, and that industry will continue to grow. Can you talk maybe a little bit about what the challenges are coming up?
Right now, we need additional competition because we're not producing enough graduates. So right now we welcome it because, like I said, cybersecurity. I heard anywhere between 5 and 700,000 jobs are unfilled in this country. Think about all the breaches and all the issues that we're having in this country and around the world. We need more people. Where are we going to get them from? Well, it's the next generation. We're going to educate and train as many as we can. Some of the other universities are starting to pick up the programs. If they can do it, great. Because what it's going to do, competition improves everybody. And
Right.
so a little bit of competition won't hurt. It's a matter of just staying connected to the industry, find out what the needs are of the government as well as the private sector, and fill those gaps. All of our professors are networked and do things with their specialty areas and their areas of interest and concentration so that they can come back and then add it to the curriculum. So whatever the needs are, we're going to continue to fill them. The one downside is, and you said asked about challenges, is basically the students. We know that 2025 is this past May is when we expect that was the highest number of high school graduating seniors. That number's dropping. You think
Really?
about people are not having babies, so get out there and start having more babies. We need more. But so we're going to have to find ways to supplement the shrinking population of
Right.
education students. And so that may be with, without getting into politics, we do need a certain amount of immigration to bring in some of these students that can come in and fill the gaps that we don't have from our own high schools. But again, it has to be the appropriate folks that can do the work.
Okay, excellent, excellent. All that is incredibly impactful. I mean, I don't think there's much more, uh, much more you can do to have an impact than teach. I think that's incredible. So, um, uh, thank you for that. And as we sort of wrap up the interview, I was wondering if you had any exciting plans or initiatives coming up for in the next year.
Well, besides teaching the regular classes, the initiatives are to continue to get out and do outreach, and get to these different conferences, because that's another way for me to
Sure.
market our students, our program. So I continue to do that, like I had mentioned probably before the podcast. I went to two conferences this summer. I have one coming up in October. I also have some local law enforcement agencies wanting me to train their detectives on interview techniques and tactics. I did one for Yavapai County Sheriff's detectives. I got one coming up here in the Valley. And so those are the things that are going to keep me fresh, and I can bring back some of the things and challenges that our students should be aware of. So other than that, well, one thing I failed to mention, yes, I did co-author a textbook, Security Investigations, and that's not the end of my writing. I write for three magazines. I basically one article a month from one of the three. Again, it's in the areas of my specialty. In addition to that, I do plan on writing a book on my own without a co-author, and it really is in the area of my specialty, which is interview techniques and tactics. One of the things I will mention is there's a push to eliminate coerce or forced confessions for obvious reasons. And so some history on that is law enforcement used to use one technique that did get coerced confessions. We never want to get a
Sure.
forced confession where you actually take an admission from a suspect that results in a conviction and wrongful conviction.
Right.
The technique that we teach, of course, is not that. We can get information from people that we're interviewing freely without any coercion by building rapport, credibility, and some sort of relationship with the suspect so they'll freely give you the information. That's the kind of thing that we're pushing out. So I want to write a textbook. Right now, I'm using what's out there, and it's kind of a hodgepodge because
Okay.
what we're teaching is not exactly aligned with the textbooks. So that'll probably be what's coming up, but I'll be continually doing things around the state, around the country, speaking, and then bring it back to the classroom. But I'm available for consultation, and if anybody needs anything in that arena, would like me as a guest speaker, I'm always available for those types of things, small businesses or conferences as well.
Okay. Excellent. Um, and Alan, if people would like to connect with you and learn more, what should they do?
You can get me two ways. You can reach me through my email address, which is my last name. Saquella, Saquella, at erau.edu, which is my university email address. Or give me on LinkedIn. I'm readily available on LinkedIn. I put a lot of content out there. Just type my name, you'll find me. There's only one in the world. It's a very uncommon last name, so I'm very easy to find, unlike a Smith or Jones.
Okay, right. Fergestad's not too dissimilar.
Yes.
Although Saquella is Italian and Fergestad is Norwegian.
Yeah, makes sense. Well, you're from Minnesota, right? There's a lot of.
Yeah, hey, but you probably have better food at dinner than us Norwegians.
At least growing up. The thing is, you got to cut back on the pasta as you get a little older.
Yeah, carbs aren't your friend.
Nope.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you very much, Alan Saquella, for joining me today. We very much appreciate you sharing your insights into success and security and impact here in the next generation here in Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Inspired by our guests? Visit phoenixprosperitypodcast.com/guest and join us on the show and share your success story with Tim. The spotlight awaits.